This video is gonna be pretty controversial for sure. I know people are gonna be mad at me afterwards, but I have to say it. So I wanna talk about beauty standards here in Korea and why I think they are so ugly and ridiculous. I wanna talk about it from the fashion side. Also wanna talk about from the aesthetic side, masculine, feminine energy, the men and the women, all of that, okay? First off, now why does everybody in Korea dress the exact same way? There's no originality. All the guys have the same haircuts. All the girls are all wearing the same things. The only real thing that they use to, I guess, distinguish themselves are these brand names, but everybody kind of has the same brand names too.
People here seem to be more obsessed with hype culture. Like things that are super popular, everybody flocks to that.
A lot of the clothes look the same, but the stores that have the most people don't really do anything different. They just have like a bigger brand name or they're what's on trend in the moment. And that doesn't really just apply to the fashion. It also applies to coffee or any popular foods. There's a lot of really good food in Korea. You can pretty much eat anywhere, you're gonna get a pretty good meal. But there's always like one or two shops that just have like a ridiculously long line and everybody's trying to take pictures of their coffee, take pictures of the food. And I'm looking at the food and I'm like, yeah, it looks good. But there's another store like a block down that way that sells the exact same thing. Like what makes this one so different? And I think it's because maybe it's location, maybe because something got hyped on TikTok or whatever. When it comes to the fashion, a perfect example of this is like right now, some of the more popular brands here in Korea are like Discovery, Kodak, and National Geographic. These companies sell the exact same clothes. It's like the sporty nature outerwear kind of thing. They have the exact same shirts, they have the exact same jackets, they have the exact same backpacks, the exact same shoes. The only difference between them, the little like branding on it. So the obsession with these brands like the Kodak and National Geographic, it's like these outerwear brands meant for people who are like going out in nature. But to me, it's kind of this weird contradiction because I wonder, you have these people that are dressed up in this like beautiful outerwear, but the outerwear is too perfect, it's too clean, right? It looks like they've never used that to actually go hiking, and their skin is so white that they look like they never spent any time outside. And this is why I say a lot of this feels so performative, because they don't buy the clothes because of practicality, use, or something that they like. It seems like they're just trying to fit in with everybody else and ride the trends. Because I heard so many things about Korean fashion before I got here and how clothes here are amazing and it's really awesome to shop. So far I've been pretty disappointed. There haven't been a lot of stores where I looked at their clothes and I was like, wow, like that's really impressive. I bought this jacket recently from this store. It was called AECA. Super nice. Like I'll put some B-roll right here. And this was the first streetwear store here in Korea where I was like genuinely impressed by. I just loved all of their designs. I felt like they were taking risks. I loved their fit. I love the quality of it. Like, so I bought this jacket and I was like, wow, this is actually super impressive. I might go back and buy something else from them. Out of like 100 brands that I saw, this is probably the only one where I was like, wow, they're actually trying some risks. Because I just came from Japan. The fashion scene in Japan, in my opinion, is one of the best fashion scenes in the world, because you'll be walking down the street and even though the society itself is quite collectivist when it comes to following the rules, I find that no two Japanese people dress the same unless they're in a suit, right? Because the business culture is a little different. When you are walking down the street, all the women dress differently. Even the old people know how to dress super well. I really like Japan's approach to fashion because it's not so much a focus on individual brands or hype. It's all about fit, it's all about self-expression, and it's all about combining everything to form the best silhouette. You have people who are into like the skateboard scene, you have people who are into baseball scene, you have guys experimenting with different kinds of patterns. Some of the best denim in the world is made in Japan. Their vintage secondhand shopping scene there is fantastic. There was just so much to love about Japanese fashion. Going there set the bar so high for me. So when I came here to Korea and I was expecting something similar, I was severely disappointed. But to be fair, what Korea does, they do well. You know, they have really good basics here, a lot of knitwear, you know, just traditional kind of old luxury, old money fashion kind of look. It seems like almost all of the stores sell that and they all kind of sell the same thing. And something that I don't like about Korean fashion in particular that I've noticed is that it feels like the brand is not trying to be Korean. They are trying to be a Korean version of like what they think is cool in the West. So some of the stuff that they say, some of the text like be cool, something polo club, instead of trying to embrace the things that make Asian culture great, the cool things about like our aesthetic and our culture, they're just trying to be a Korean imitation of the West. And this also translates into the beauty standards, which I'm going to talk about in a little bit. Something that I love about Japan's beauty standards, especially for the women, is that the whole cutesy kawaii thing, some people may see it as cringe cringe, but I think it works perfectly for the Asian aesthetic because that's how we are. We're not the biggest people. We're a lot softer. We have softer features. The women are a lot cuter because they're a lot more petite. And I think Vietnam does a pretty good job of this as well. It's like highlighting what makes us beautiful as Asian people. Whereas here, the beauty standard for the women and the men is so extreme. Strive for perfection that does not exist. And I'm gonna be completely honest, it's gonna sound really bad. In my time here in Busan so far, I have not really seen any women where I was like so impressed by her beauty, because all the women, maybe body like looks nice and everything, but there's so much plastic surgery and their face looks like Michael Jackson. I personally don't like facial plastic surgery at all. I just think it takes away from your natural beauty. All the flaws are what make you human. The Japanese girls, in my opinion, were beautiful because they just kind of accepted who they are. It doesn't feel like they're trying to be anybody else. They seemed a lot more comfortable in their own skin. Whereas here in Korea, it feels like there's this weird societal insecurity for how the women look, because this is gonna come off a little wrong as well, but I think the women here actually look extremely masculine and their energy is quite masculine as well. So here's my theory, right? The women are super masculine. If you disagree, why is the beauty standard for men so feminine? This exists in countries where women are more masculine than the men, in my opinion. I feel like this dynamic is very big in Spain. In Spain, the men are more attractive than the women. I've seen this dynamic in Colombia, and I've seen this dynamic in the US in some ways. The US is a little more diverse because you have different forms of like masculine archetypes. You have like the soft boy Timothy Chalamet, which is very popular. But then you also have like hyper masculine rappers. And then you have something in the middle, like the country singers that are tall and fit, but they also kind of still have a pretty boy aesthetic. But here in Korea, image for the men is to be the super feminine looking man, super soft skin, super soft boy look. Whereas the look for the women is to be this super strong boss babe kind of woman. It doesn't really work for me because when I see someone's aesthetic, right? What tells me if they're masculine or feminine is not just the way that they dress, but it's the overall presentation and the energy. Going back to Japan again, the women there I find are very beautiful because they have this nice feminine outwardly aesthetic and a lot of expressed femininity, but it's also in like the personality and the way that they act and how soft they are. I have a lot of experience with Koreans because I grew up in LA. There's a lot of Koreans there. I went to school with a lot of Koreans. There's a lot of things that I admire about their culture. Korean food to me is some of the best in the world. I love how social they are. They really run deep everywhere they go. It's a very group-oriented country, very similar to Latin America in this regard, which is why I think Korea and Mexico or Korea and Chile, they have a lot of like overlap and similarities because the way that they express family and the way that they do everything communally is very, very similar. But I think the focus on community has translated to a lot of parts of Korean society. I wonder if because Christianity is also so big here, Christianity is very much a conformist religion. I think in Japan, the more main religion is Buddhist. Buddhism is more of a religion about focusing inward and focusing on yourself. Whereas Christianity is all about following the one God and then trying to change the world to conform to your religion, right? I was walking around and I saw these signs for like a fitness gym, and then the pictures that they had of the Korean men on there were just ridiculous. Okay, I've been here and I've seen thousands of Koreans walking everywhere. We don't normally look like that. So that's such an unattainable standard of beauty that doesn't really fit with who we are as Asian people. Now, granted, here in Korea, they are taller than the other Asian countries that I've been to. I've noticed that. It's the same in China. Like as you go to the northern part of China, the people tend to be a little taller, probably like closer to Mongolia. I'm just very disappointed by Korean beauty standards because I'm like, I don't understand why people find this beautiful. I don't know why deforming your face to have the perfect cheekbones, to fix your nose, to fix your lips, all that stuff makes you more attractive. I think it comes off as extremely insecure because you're trying to be something that you're not. You're trying to conform to this European Western style of beauty that we will never be. I talk about on my channel that there's a lot of white worship going on in East Asia, right? It's big in China and it's big in Korea. In Japan, I actually don't think they care that much about it, but Korea is probably like one of the biggest places for that.
I would say that it's even more prevalent in a place like Korea where they do celebrate people who are of a lighter skin tone or of a Caucasian race. Random people will sometimes come up on the street and, you know, they'll like, oh, so pretty, so pretty. And I know that it has less to do about me and how I look and more to do with the fact that I'm just white.
The obsession with perfection and having the perfect skin and everything having to be perfect is such a toxic mentality. The perfection with the best grades, you have to be the best performer. There's just so much pressure that's put on Asian kids from such a young age to perform that it really F's up our mental health. So here's an interesting observation I've made. I've seen how Korean dads interact with their kids, and they're so nice. And when the Korean girls are like kids, they still maintain a lot of that feminine energy, that cutesy energy. And it's almost like femininity are beaten out of the women, and they're taught to be more masculine. Like for the men, they're taught to be gentle, soft boys, and they almost get the masculinity beaten out of them. Something that I also notice is that a lot of the tourists that come here to Korea, you have a lot of couples that come here. You have some groups of like mixed men and women. And I've seen a couple of guys here and there, but most of the travelers coming here are actually women, groups of women, women from the West. It's almost kind of like the reverse passport bros, like passport girls. You know, I don't know if a lot of them are coming here to find like their oppa or whatever, but the percentage of women travelers versus men travelers is very similar to the, like if you went to Colombia, male foreigners, because they're going for one reason only, right? So I wonder how much fetishization of the Korean man because of K-dramas and K-pop have contributed to why all these white Western women want to come to this country. It's crazy. Like out of all the countries that I've been to, I've never seen so many solo female travelers or female groups until I came to Korea. Really like Busan. Actually is one of my favorite cities in the world. I compare it, it's like Da Nang. It's like a much more upscale version of Da Nang. It's a little bit cleaner than Da Nang. The infrastructure is a little better, and there's great Korean food everywhere. It's beautiful geographic. This city's amazing. Now I understand why a lot of Koreans like to go to Vietnam, because Da Nang and Nha Trang have a very similar vibe and aesthetic to here in Busan. And when you go to Vietnam, they have so many stores that sell like luxury goods or kind of imitation luxury goods, and they are always overrun by Korean people. This exists in Chinese culture too, right? Like standing out is bad. You have to try to do what everybody else is doing. That's always more important. This video is probably going to be quite controversial, but I just have to say the truth. I highly recommend you guys watch this video next. So let me know what you guys think down below. Do you agree? Do you disagree? And I will see you on the next one.